Welcome to the Driving Force Mastermind podcast, where we connect you with inspiring entrepreneurs and deconstruct the mindset, the habits, the tools that they use to build great businesses so that you can too. Today we're going to connect you with Jon Anderson, who is the president of Anderson Architects in Tucson, Arizona. Jon is known as the Home Whisperer. He's been directly responsible for the design and the production of over $2.2 billion worth of homes that have been built and sold by prominent home builders. He's earned accolades and praise for creating designs that home buyers desire, and as a result, home builders use these home plans as a cornerstone of their business. His home design has been cost-effective for home builders and feel larger, allowing home buyers to get more value and live more comfortably.
Today, Jon's going to share with us, 1, how he made it through the cataclysmic industry's up and downs and how you can do it too. 2, how he's helped all 3 of his kids launch out on their own in entrepreneurship. And 3, how to find the sweet spot in your business that will allow you to dominate in your business and industry. So now let's get to it.
Where were you, and what did it take for you to say, okay, it's time for me to start taking some action now? What was this? How did this journey start for you?
I've been an entrepreneur and entrepreneurially minded since I was young. And, when I went to college, I looked at, I trained in architecture. So, I looked at it and saw everybody else marching to the beat of the drum. I'm like, I'm not going to do it that way. And more than anything else, I'm not going to do it that way because I hear all the horror stories about what people think of architects. So I went a divergent path intentionally. And so, looking forward at all this stuff, it's brought me to a journey of, to today. In my industry, the ups and downs they sure seem pretty cataclysmic almost. We've gone through recessions, but man, ours are much bigger than, or have been much bigger than the general economy's downtrodden times. And being, centered in housing, we've had a couple of big hits that have been just like wipe you out hits. And so I've survived them, and we're trying not to, make the same mistakes we've made before, if that makes sense. So we learn from our mistakes and move forward, right?
Yeah.
And part of my issue of life is I'm an all-in kind of guy. And so I got to be smarter and kind of pull chips off the table. And so each time I come through a cycle, I'm looking to go through it in a bigger way. And I think, what I've finally figured out is growing incrementally isn't really a great way to grow. It's a lot of hard work, right? We're just tuning things and fixing things and 10% better. And that's what I've done. I've done a lot of that. What's driving me now is how do I make the quantum leaps instead? Go to a much higher level. And when I say a higher level, one would be income, of course. We always gauge what our success on how our final income is. But more so of, I've worked very hard all this time. And so my goal is to not just work hard, but, be smarter at about leveraging other skills. And today that's become even more difficult because we have a labor problem. And with the millennials coming in, it seems like an attitudinal problem too. And so it's been a struggle to find the people to take over the parts and pieces, if that makes sense.
So you got a lot here. You got a lot going. You're trying to overcome the cataclysmic events that can happen with the economy because it affects your industry so profoundly, and then at the same time not make those mistakes that hurt you last time, and in addition to that, leverage everything you've got so that not only do you only grow more than incrementally, you grow exponentially almost, and then lastly, really, it's kind of you really run into some labor issues now. That's kind of what's slowing you down now. So you've had 3 really big things that started you on this journey. So I want to jump into how in the heck a guy like you overcomes them, because you're not a slacker by any means, Jon, and you've overcome these things in huge ways. So let's talk about your way to get around these potential ups and downs in the economic conditions that caused, problems for you last time. How have you kind of, shored yourself up against that not happening again?
Well, I don't think I'm there yet. I think that right now, honestly, and based specifically on our last mastermind meeting, it's time for me just to take this baby, put it on steroids, what I'm doing right now, and just go for it. Stomp on the gas pedal as hard as I can, and put the nuts on the side. So pull money off the table, so that, because it's really simple. Okay, the patterns are there. It's boom bust, boom bust, boom bust, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, if you're smart about it, right, that's where you really, really leverage up and you grow. Because in my industry, what happens is we have the main players, right? People that do it for a living, and then we have everybody else that jumps in when the time's good, like right now. So, we know we're going into what's going to fall behind that is going to be a bust cycle. So just need to have the nuts stored away so that we can buy when there's blood in the streets. Because there's money to be made in my business all the time. It's just, is there money to be made providing architectural services? Not so much, just barely enough to survive when the times are really dry. But there's still money to be made in real estate. And so that's kind of, I've got two of my kids that are pointing it towards that, and I'm working with them and helping them on their first throws into that marketplace. And we're working the whole concept of leverage and growing on real estate deals at the same time as doing the business. So that's kind of like my side. I don't even want to call it a side gig, because it really is. It's even in some respects bigger than the architecture itself, and it kind of ties into what I'm kind of practicing with them, what I do for my clients in a slightly different way. I do it for my clients by providing architecture that makes them money. So I'm getting involved in the deals with that make us money. The trick is, though, seeing when it's time to get out, or at least seeing when to get enough chips off the table. Because in real estate, you got to prime the pump. So that's the tough thing, is you got to prime the pump. You got to do a deal, then you pyramid it. You do 2 deals, then you do 3 or 4. And if you're a little bit late to the party, when you're doing the 3 or 4, all of a sudden the dance stops, and you don't want to be standing there with all your marbles in the game at that time.
So really, you're just, that the market is going to change significantly, especially with what you do. You're going to have significant swings, ups and downs, and so
yeah.
It's not burying your head in the sand and crossing your fingers and rubbing your lucky rabbit's foot and hoping that, it will never change, it'll always be good. It's being observant enough to know that it's going to change, and when it changes, I'm ready for that too. I just shift my strategy to a different mode, and I take advantage of it on the downside too. So there really becomes no downside when you know it's coming and prepare for it.
Yeah, and the last downside was so bad that I was looking at so many different things, because I'm a scrapper, and so I'm looking at all these different things, and I found a bunch of different ways not to make money. I found a ton of ways that didn't work. I felt like Edison, man. Okay, 197 checked off and 198. So I'm there working night and day, and it's like, okay, none of this crap is paying off. And it is, though, because it's a journey, and this is what the tough thing that the resilient people realize is that, so often that ocean of where you want to be is just like 5 or 6 layers of trees beyond. and that's what always keeps me going on all this stuff. But it's fun that, it's really revived me a lot too, is the kids, you know, and helping them and kind of showing them how really creativity trumps so much. And, you know, and there's just, that's what I do all day long. I just use creativity in my business to help people make money. I use creativity to help my kids grow what they're doing and let them look at things differently. So, you know, it's not so much you have to invent something that nobody's invented before, right? It's you have to just look at something that in a way that nobody else is looking at it, and you can create value. If you can find, you know, what nobody else sees, it's like you got X-ray vision. And so that's really what, you know, boy, I wish I could help my daughter in that same way, because I'm able to do it on the real estate side, right? But when we get to like her area of the world, it's like, I can just be there with motivation more so, if that makes sense. And talking to her about things, but it's, you know, it's a fun journey, this whole thing.
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, I wouldn't, you know, you're almost underestimating the effect you're having with, you're saying you're just being motivational. And I think it's so much more than that, because I've seen it from the outside looking in between you and Olivia, and it would seem, I think Sam's going to agree with me 100% here, is that what we see is that it's not just a mental, you know, motivation that you're giving her. It's an entire mental, it's an entire mindset that you're giving her. Right. You even said it earlier before we hit the record button. You said that I want them to think bigger than me. Think bigger than what Dad's done. Think much, much bigger. And so that's huge, John. That's a big deal to make sure that, you know, you want to know that, look, Dad had limitations, and we you know, we all have these challenges in our life, these roadblocks that stop us from growing to the level we wanted to, or the level we dreamed of when we were 3 years old and wanted to be a garbage man. You know, we want to do bigger than that. But the reality is we have things that stopped us. You know, the economic conditions changed, and we couldn't shift quickly enough, and all those things slow us down. But what I want to pass on to you is that you can grow bigger. Don't limit yourself to striving to be like me. You know, strive to be everything that you can be, and I think that's huge. And so we see it in Olivia. I can tell you that she's grown. Yeah, I think her eyes are much bigger than what yours probably are right now. I know she's looking past that, and that's all because of you, that you have passed it on to her. So I think you should really be proud of the fact that you're giving her an entire mindset that's well beyond what most kids have.
Oh, I was going to say, because we've worked together now for, you know, 2 years in a row here, and we've seen Olivia grow. But here's the other thing that you've done that some of our other members now have taken notice and are doing. But you involve your kids in this. The mindset, teaching them. It wasn't more, and you said it, right? Scratch this off the list. How many light bulbs did it take? And it's about not making these mistakes. And if it is how do you overcome them? And you're putting them in a room with just to sit there and listen to amazing other business owners and learn this process. I mean, just watching Olivia go through these meetings has been incredible. And now we have other members that are saying, you know what? And, you know, the math is there. 80% of businesses that are passed on to their children fail. So I'm not making that number up. It's a statistic. And it's vitally important that, you know, and you're bringing in your two sons now. They're getting into the business, but then learning. Gregory drove in from Milwaukee to sit in on the meeting and learn. And the key thing is that how do I get in that mindset? Because it's not always, you know, Dad's telling you one thing, and that's great, and we all listen. But listen to other business owners. He wrote us an amazing letter following up to this thing, and he was spot on. Learning from this, and I'm going to find it, and I'll give me a minute. We'll talk, but I want to read what he said, which is really, really cool.
So then, John, I'd love to ask you this. So you mentioned that you want to leverage all of your other skills, and I know that one of your skills we're going to get into a little bit later. I know you jumped on now is the skill of bringing your three children up in a different way than even you were brought up, and bringing them into entrepreneurial world in a different way. But what are some of the other skills that you're leveraging in your own business for yourself and your wife, of course, that you're doing right now? What are those skills that you're leveraging? Well,
and honestly, that's kind of my shift right now, is to still maintain this kind of advisory role or growth role for the kids, but at the same time make it a dual focus to where it's growing for me and my wife. So we're participating in some of the same type of stuff, right? In doing the real estate, but using the business as the kind of the catalyst to make that work. And what's nice about it is it seems like all the eggs are in one basket, right? But it's like I'm in one of the sweetest spots in the world. And what I mean by that is I'm kind of a high value consultant or team member to an industry that all competes with each other. But really, what I don't think all of them realize, they're not really competing with each other. They're competing with the existing homes out there. So, I give my wares or help them sell homes, right? Because I create the architecture that they build and they make their money with. Well, the competition isn't builder A against builder B as much as it is builder A and B against the resale market. So we're always trying to kick the butt of the resale market because that's the big, if you look at new homes versus old, that's where it is, right? So adding my knowledge base to each of those guys, and here's the deal, it's not a one-way street. The reason I'm valuable to them is because I listen to them. And that's the most important thing. I learn from them every single day. It's so cool because I think of what you guys do. And you sit there in these meetings and all this stuff, and you get this same advantage that I do, but in a bigger way, because of all the interactions that are even deeper than mine with all these people that are ballers. Everybody's for the most part, they're much more open-minded, even though as when we're sitting there doing a hot seat, we sound very close-minded, right? And we're close-minded because, man, we started going down a path. That's kind of what makes, that's the trouble of being an entrepreneur, is part of what makes you great is you look down a path and you go, I'm going down this path. And it's like, everybody get the hell out of my way, and if you're going to get on, get in behind me. And so, we have to fight ourselves from the perspective of sometimes we're driving in the wrong lane. We're driving down the incoming traffic lane, and that's the nice thing about the meetings of doing a mastermind is that everybody looks at you and says, "Hey, dummy, if you move over to the other side of the road and go the same, you're going to be going with the wind. You're not going against traffic." And so we need that feedback, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let me ask you this. So now you're talking about these labor issues, and how are you going to work through that and kind of overcome some of that issue, especially when, as you said, you're a real baller too. I mean, you are, probably in large part the biggest producer in your entire company. How are they going to replace you, and of course, to solve other labor issues within the business? How are you working on that?
I haven't. So it's my biggest problem.
Gotcha.
That's been handcuffing me. That I know is there. I see it's there. I go to the well and try to solve the problem, and I don't find the answer to it. And it's been a struggle. So it's been an off and on battle. I think it's much with myself as much as it is with conditions, right? Because once again, we're back to that. There's guys that can do parts. And listen, I can tell you this, with a lot of confidence. People won't be able to do the nuts and bolts of what I do nearly as well as I do, and I've given up on looking for that, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking more for attitude.
Yeah.
Because and desire to grab and learn, and then the mentality of when you're here, and it's hard to get just those two components.
I agree with you 100%. It is a tremendous amount of this is attitude, and I think if you hire for that, it will be a benefit to you. But I do know that, and even during the hot seat we talked about this, with that there was really two parts to the hiring issue, or let's call this the labor shortage. And part one was trying to replace you is absolutely insane. There's no way to do that. That's not what we're looking to hire. We're looking to hire someone that can somewhat similarly perform your jobs, and part one of that is the systemization of whatever the hell it is that you want them to do. So one is the systemization, and then two would be the skills you need to hire for. So I know that you're still in the midst of trying to figure this out, and I wonder if since you do know that, and you do know that you have an entire inner circle of mastermind members that are there and built especially to help you, that maybe reaching out to them some more might be another good fresh head start, because you got the your action plan when you left the hot seat was, hey, you need to hire these specific people and you make this specific hire to help you move forward. And now that you've gotten past that big challenge of, okay, I definitely need to hire somebody, now it comes down to the tactical side. Well, how the hell do I do that, right? Isn't that what you are, right?
We are in the tactics right now, and here's the deal. We're completely. What I've realized is another way not to do something, right? So I created a handful of websites and funnels that to grow my practice, and it didn't resonate. And I'm clear-minded enough to look at it and say it didn't resonate. And so we're rebuilding that, and we're going much simpler. We're really stripping this thing down because, action is what's needed. So we're creating for the first time. I've been in practice for, oh my goodness, since 93 or 97. I don't remember now. And 97. So 26 years. I've never had. You're going to laugh at this. I'm an architect. I never had a portfolio that I showed people.
Wow.
So I've been able to procure work and even start my practice, not even with a portfolio, but by sitting down and talking to builders. Because what I did do when I started out in the business, I got on their side of the fence. I started in construction management, and so I understood their vocabulary. I understood their problems. I understood the trials and tribulations that they go through every single day, and I sincerely understand it. So I understand. I believe their problems better than they do, for the most part. Not all their problems, right? Because I've been out of that for a long time. And that's why working with my kids, this is what's so cool about this, working with my kids on the real estate stuff is really, really even more valuable to me, because I reinstill those skills and tune those up that I had from before that I was wicked good at. And that was negotiating with subcontractors. And I was kind of almost, as corny as it sounds, a subcontractor whisperer, because I used to be able to get in their mind, and I understood the psychology of the sub. And so I'm using that now, and with my oldest son and his first build, and I mean, he has guys that are, and so this is his first time. He's a babe in the woods, right? He doesn't understand what it's really like, because he's had the bumper rails. He had me guiding him through this whole thing. And every phone conversation we have, I'm telling him, is a negotiation. It's just that they don't realize it, and it's not meant as manipulative in a bad way. It's to have their experience with us so strong and so good that they want to keep doing work for us over and over again, and they want to give us the best pricing. And I mean, there was one day a sub asked him, for a check. He pulls out his checkbook and he's writing a draw, a partial payment for work. And the guy says, he says, you pay fast. He said, that's why when you call me. And this guy was the most ornery guy I'm telling you, does the best work on tile work, but he was just a pain to deal with. But I mean, he's telling him as Alexander's writing this check, this is why you get my attention when you call me. And then we had other subs that would say, when they would screw up and stuff, I'd call them up and I'd talk to them and I'd say, listen, man, you're really killing us. Because here's what happens in our industry: subs get yelled at and they're treated as a second-class citizen. And so when things go wrong and they get screamed at, Well, who wants to take a phone call? That's why they always avoid phone calls, you know. So it's just it makes no sense, you know. Builders have lots of sticks and very few carrots, and so the few carrots we have are what? Pay fast, and treat them like you'd want to be treated, you know, and get them on your side. I mean, it's just like, dude, you know what's costing me a day when you're late? It's costing me, you know, $127 a day that you don't show up to my job site. And now it's stuff that it's tangible to them. So, you know, so he hasn't gotten to see what it's like to really deal with subs because we treat them in a different way. And we've been I've been helping him set up for his future projects on the first one, so that when he picks up the phone and calls them, guess what they do? Hell yeah, I want to do work for you.
Right.
I know I'm going to get paid fast, and I know I'm going to be treated right. And I know if something's off, you'll make it right, you know. So that's kind of the cool thing is that, but with this feedback loop though, here's the cool thing about this feedback loop, is now it makes me better with my builder clients because now I've got feedback from subs on certain things that go on with the way I do my plans and problems that we had when we build, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never realized this was a problem, because guess what? We never get the feedback. And most architects don't want to hear it and don't care to hear it. It doesn't matter. They're just cranking out their work, right? But I want the feedback because I want the subs to look, when they look at my plans, I want them to say, oh, wow, I'm comfortable with this. And so that makes it, you know, everything builds. Everything is a building block and builds upon each other. And it's just this network of all these building blocks. They're all interconnected, though. They're not independent of each other. So, you know, I'm trying to grow all these things at once. And I guess what you'd say is very organically, right? Not forced. Other than the forced part is we're about to ramp up marketing again. But I'm going to do it right this time. I like to say, you know, I'm going to get somebody else to be making the call, making these marketing calls and doing all the pre-work so that I can do what I'm really good at, and that's the meeting. And so what we're trying to do right now for that, okay, I know this is a long-winded way of saying, geez, I am working on my stuff. We're building the portfolio website.
Well, it's never just as simple as, I'm working on. Of course there's some details in it, so keep going.
Hey, Driving Force members, there's too much good stuff to put in just one episode, so we split it up into two. Make sure you tune in to continuation with our connection and special guest, Jon Anderson.